the episode overall was good.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? My name is B Max, aka Brandon. Tonight, this is episode 42 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon this evening. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Doing
Hey, yo, it's
great.
already crazy.
We had a little pre-banter things. We were talking about some things before we started streaming, and I clicked it, and they were just talking about stuff. I'll leave that in. That's gonna not be a bad thing. I don't mind that. But tonight, we're gonna have a couple things we need to get into. Jobless season 2 got its teaser trailer and an announcement for it. Also, we got the anime charts. These charts got kind of weird this time around because last week was even weirder. This week's gonna get kind of weird. You'll see why. And then we're gonna talk about Solo Level. Solo had two weird stories come out for it. One dealing with a voice actor, did something that we've already seen once prior from another show, and the other was about the studio proper. We'll start off with Jobless. Jobless got their teaser for season 2, and we are getting Jobless in the it's going to be in April, so it's season 2 part 2. I'm gonna start off with Chris for this. Chris, what do you think about Jobless getting its teaser and key art for season 2 part 2?
Yo, man. So they already like with the teaser art, they dropped some serious some things to look in there, man. This is man like you really have to sit there and look at it, analyze it, because it's a lot to be analyzed in this one screen. Like it's a lot of questions to be asked, and man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it's gonna go.
Okay. Dion, I don't know if you know much about Jobless. Have you seen it? What do you think about this teaser for season 2 part 2?
I'm not ready for it. Um, I would. I'm a little on the fence about Jobless. The first season, I absolutely was a fan of. This second season, it kind of changed genres on me, and I'm interested in seeing what comes out next. But I'm also scared to see what comes out next. So I'm a wait and see on this one.
When you say change genres, what do you mean?
So it started off as like an isekai adventure, right? Like it was magic and spells every 2 seconds and fights, even just training fights and good storylines. And then it turned into like this sad romance novel. And I was like, uh
Okay.
half of this season, I'm not even really watching it. Like I'm not being able to dive into it as much as I can listen to this like an audio tape, and I would be okay. You know.
I
Um,
do agree with you there. I mean, because it did feel like it did a genre change. It went from a, like you said, like an action comedy to more of a dramedy, if that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the premises that y'all brought it on was like, man, y'all done had to hit every dude like that. Like, dang.
Right.
but I think the thing is, thinking about that, I think ultimately, if you kept the same pacing from season 1, and even if you kept the same pacing from season 1, I think it would have been bad because I think if you tried to tell that story, continue the way it did, and then you tried to tell that story they told in season 2, the first half, it wouldn't work as well. Because I don't mind the gear shift. I don't mind as long as you have a resolution. In this case, you did have a resolution. The resolution was there.
Yeah.
It took a bit to get to the resolution, but
That's the part.
yeah, it took a bit to get to the resolution, but the resolution was there. And I don't. It is one hard. I will say to fans listening to us who listen to our podcast stuff, it is a hard one to watch. If you see how they do it very well, but it's also very hard to get through because it's not something they do with action. They do it with more storytelling, and the storytelling is built into everything else, and that storytelling is very based in real world life, which is also kind of hard to believe because most shows don't do that very well, and
Yeah.
Jobless did it very well for something
Yes.
that's
They it was definitely a good story. I say that biting my tongue because some people are gonna watch it and then come back and be like, "What is this? What did he do? But
Yeah.
um, um, it was a good story. All in all, I just wanted to see a little bit more of, I don't know, I guess from the main character. We got a lot of sappy, sad, sorrowful, crybaby esque
I mean,
mentality from
honestly,
him.
the main character needs to go back on the road because, like,
Yeah,
because we come from a setting where every scene was different. There's a new story, a different place, different
it
people,
was
versus
entertaining.
coming back to like what seemed almost like a regular run of the mill anime with him being stuck at school all the time. Like, yay, it's the same people with the same places.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think that is the thing. I think that's kind of hard when you think about it because a good example of that, and I'm gonna bring this up because they're getting their movie soon. As is My Hero Academia. What is the one
yeah.
thing people didn't like about My Hero Academia from the first season? A lot of people, I know not a lot of people, but some people thought it was kind of weird. What they do, they stay in the school for a lot longer than you think in that first
Yeah.
season. But ultimately, they do get out of the school for like a couple episodes or about a little bit of an arc. But then they go back
But I
into
mean,
school pretty quickly, and
Yeah,
it's
the only thing is that the title of it kind of gives it away. Like he was
correct.
yeah.
meant to go to school. He was meant to, My
And they
Hero Academy. Yeah,
they started the show like that.
right.
You know,
Mhm.
Jobless started with a quick up and coming, I guess, age story. Like he went from 0 to 12 in like 2 episodes. Like
Yeah,
we
he
get
did.
this fast-paced first season where everything is happening and then it slows down on this one and it's like
What
you've
happened?
got me used to a certain pace. Even if
Okay.
you're telling us a story and is getting, a certain way, because uh the time I got reincarnated as a slime does this in a couple of arcs where it slows down and they're just in the city, but it's still keeping up pace. Like there's still things happening every day. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm just
No,
weird and I want to
and
see a lot of action and bloodshed, but
but I think you're not wrong because I think the thing with the first season Jobless, they did a very good job of like you say, his from when he got reincarnated into the new world and get to like age 12, that happened in about 4 episodes. It's fast.
yeah.
Oh, after that point, he gets stronger and stronger every single episode to that point. And then once he hits that wall at the end of the middle of the back half of season 1, season 2 starts out where he's kind of still pretty strong, but he's also lost little things. And it's
But
interesting.
Yeah.
he's still against the wall though.
Correct. And I think that's the weird thing. The one thing about Jobless I do enjoy more than the main character, and it's going to be kind of something I want to see what they do with this coming season because we got the key art for this shows um, his new wife. The fact that we get back the guy that's supposed to be hated by most of the people because he's very just strong and scary. The
Mhm.
fact that we get back his former girlfriend. The fact it I the
It's
one thing about
coming
Jobless I
back to
like
the original story.
correct. The one thing
Yeah,
I like
like
about
like
Jobless was the other people
Yes.
around the main character,
Yes.
not Rudy's himself. Because Rudy's was very bland as a character, in a sense,
As
like
a
he's just
as a personality, yes, I can see
yeah,
that.
yeah.
yeah. As a personality, he's very bland. But ultimately, everybody else around him was weird and awkward, which actually helped him out because it forced when he talked to those characters, he changed his tack with them.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
was a
thing I
good
want to see
dynamic.
what they want to do with
Hmm.
that. And ultimately, also in this key art, we get a tease of like the daughter of the maid becoming their maid. We also get a tease of like the fact that he's gonna be getting stronger and getting better. They're having him and the girl that he knew as a child are about to have life together. All this stuff. I don't know if they can continue the story about him not being so great in yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I,
But
I don't
supposedly
think
that's over though. So
that's
like the
that's what I'm
story
thinking.
I believe should was going to continue with him finding his mom. That's
Okay,
where
and
I was.
that's
That's
where I
where I
think
was.
And that's where I think the plot will go, because the mom, it was the plot point at the end of the middle of season
Yeah, it
2.
definitely was.
Mhm.
So
And in the beginning of this, it still has those traces of okay, I'm gonna stay here until I figure out how to find my mom and all that. But
mhm.
I don't know.
It is
I
It
kind of,
guess
just it's like we forget that he's an adult again. Like
yeah. He's
we
like
forget
60.
he's reincarnated.
He's 15 at this point by the time we get to the end of
Yeah.
season
and
2.
I guess the only thing for me that I see that really linked season one and season two was that season one wasn't without its drama. Season
Correct.
one did have some heavy hitting episodes with some heavy hitting drama.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, that kind of light hardens the drama that they placed in season two.
Yeah. It doesn't hit as hard.
Do
Hmm
you, I'm gonna ask you gentlemen both this. With it coming out in April, it's coming out April 7th, according to this post. Do you think it's gonna be one of those things where it comes out in April, is not gonna have a lot of competition next to it, technically, outside of maybe My Academia? Um,
Nah, it's got competition.
but
Yeah,
It's
I
got a lot
say,
of competition.
but I
it's
say
got a few
competition in this
things.
sense because I say it in this sense because Jobless is probably one of the few shows where it has a fan base already built into it, and the fan base is pretty strong. And I don't think it's gonna override. If you're not a fan of, if you're a fan of something else, but you want to get into Jobless, I don't think most people will, unless you're just really curious. Um, the reason I bring it up because I think it's interesting to see like Jobless is one of those ones like Ted Pole. It's Jobless, it's My Hero Academia, it's Demon Slayer. It's on that same level as some certain other echelon shows. It's one of those ones where it is gonna stay at pretty much in that top echelon, and it's not. There's no chance for it to have a rough start.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have a rough start. I think you're right. It has a fan base to it, so enough people will at least give it a chance. It will be coming in off the back end of a really good season, and then there's a few new animes that'll be released right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm
So the competition will be there. I don't know if it'll be important enough competition,
Okay.
you know, because that's
Okay.
already hit or
You
miss
see,
with this spring season.
I think the besides My Hero Academia, the one of the new shows that everybody's looking forward to is I myself being one of them is Kaiju 8
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
promises to deliver that action. So we'll
I,
see.
it's interesting because I know Chris talks about this all the time, and he mentioned it. He mentioned last podcast. He don't like the fact this is a drama. This is turned into a drama, basically, and you don't watch a lot of dramas yourself. But this is one of the few drama things or dramatizations where it's like, I can get through it because they can do good storytelling. The action is there when necessary, but it's not always actiony. I'm gonna be interested to see if people did watch season 2, part 1. What are they gonna think about the ending of that? How that finished, and how they're gonna figure out do they want to continue? If it's gonna be a lot more storytelling and less um,
Yeah.
actiony, what is that gonna entail for a lot of people? Because I think that's the one thing we've learned from this season. If you don't really have a good action, a lot of things kind of fall off. Outside the drama, like true just drama animes, if you don't
Yeah.
do action very well, it's gonna fall off. If you do action very well, you're gonna stay on the top for the most part. Um, but let's roll into this. So we're gonna roll into Soul Level. One of the two stories I want to talk about. So we'll start with this one. So one of the solo level actors, and this was actually kind of interesting. Um, the actor for Jin Woo, uh, did coughed up blood when he was in the recording booth, and this was confirmed. And they said that this is not the last. It was 2 episodes. So we're on episode 5. I think this happened on episode 3, technically 1 or 2 or 3. Is how this is. They're talking about this, and it was talked about in a way like he talked about he was okay. He didn't, he was just, really emotional into the character and stuff. And me and Chris talked about this. we talked about the guy that did the character for forget the show we talked about it on, where he was literally scratching the floor while doing the recordings. I'm gonna ask you this, Dion.
Mhm.
Are people just built differently over there? Because that tells me the type of acting you're doing and the type of like getting into the character is getting close to method acting. And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say method acting in the sense of like Jared Leto when Jared Leto did it for Joker. That is insane amount of method acting. That's kind of crazy. But to the point where in voice acting you're playing the character with your whole soul and voice to the point where you're doing something like that. That's
Yeah.
that's insane to me. What do you think about the situation? Because this sounds
Well,
crazy.
I think it's I think it's fine. I actually like it. Now, there are levels to it. There's an extremity, you know, but essentially they are actors.
They are.
We don't get to see them personally, but we get to feel their emotions through their characters. That's one thing that people pride themselves on watching the original voices of the anime. They're like, "Oh, you don't get to feel the emotion like that with dub." That's one of their standing points. So for them to actually have that, and I'm gonna call it method acting, um, because in every sense of the word, it is. Now, it's probably not Jared Leto's level, or even like Will Smith's level, but you still have that get into the role, get into the character, and become that person. Um, so it, it makes it more believable. I hope everybody is staying safe though, and like not trying to like cut their hands and stuff and all that crazy stuff to feel what the character's feeling. I've seen some stuff like that, but as long as they're staying safe and they're okay, I'm all for the high intensity, full emotion because we get to feel that on the other side.
Hmm. Okay. Chris, same question to you. And I was actually a little off base. So this is from episode four's preview. So this was from episode four we just watched. Um, so yeah, I remember the scene, and the scene they show in the little picture thing is the scene I remember seeing. What do you think about the situation, Chris? What do you think about the fact like people in the recording booth over in Japan, even here sometimes you hear about it, where in America where they're doing this like really strong acting to the point where it's like physically like conjuring emotions or things. Like in this case, this guy's coming with blood. The one example I can remember back a long time ago is when they did Bioshock. The girl who plays Elizabeth asked the guy who played Booker DeWitt, and it was Troy Baker, surprisingly, in a trailer in like a preview trailer, which is actually not going to be in the game proper, to make her cry. So, what do you think about this whole situation, Chris? About how the people do this?
All right, Brandon, watch this. Watch this.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. You ready for this?
All right.
Have you ever read a poem that's not your own?
Yes.
Has that poem ever built emotion within you?
Yes.
So when you get that emotion, do you not feel it?
I do.
So are you saying that? So that's like saying the guy in that booth, he's reading these lines, and you telling me that he's not going to get emotional as he's saying his lines?
He will. He should.
Therefore,
Okay. I know where you're
that
going.
just only confirms exactly what Dion was saying. Like emotions are felt regardless of the medium that they come from. What you put into it is what you're trying to express.
Yeah.
Now, it is an unfortunate event of how it turned out, but sometimes when you in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about that. I mean, everybody has had that moment where they've been super focused or hyper fixated, and it's like, this is mine. This is what I got to do. I'm gonna finish it. It's that emotion, man. If you don't feel that emotion, then you probably need to go see a therapist.
I mean, you're probably not wrong. Um, I mean, you're right, and I do agree with you there. I do agree with the fact if you're doing something for theater acting, I get that. I think the crazy part is, to me, it is hard pressed to me because they've kind of tell you like they want that heart, they want that emotion. I get all that, but it's also kind of hard pressed to me when you're ultimately gonna almost literally get in the mind of this character and like say these lines with so much passion, vigor, to the point where you're basically just gonna embody what that character's feeling at that moment. And it's hard to do. I get it, but it's also kind of like, do you really want to roll in that realm a lot of the time? Because that's something that's hard to come back from for a lot of people if you do it more than once,
But see,
even
I feel
even
like
for one
that's
character.
I feel like that's what makes you a good actor.
Okay.
Being able to put yourself in that situation more than once and then come back. Some people can't. Like we seen what happened to Joker, the Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some people can't come back from that. So there is a danger to it. But then you also see actors like Cuban Gooding Jr. when he played Radio, Will Smith when he played Ali. You get, and I know I'm using a lot of them, but Jim Carrey when he plays 98% of his roles.
Yeah, you're right about that.
you
I can
know,
even go one step further. When Creed, Michael B. Jordan
Mm.
playing the main character for playing Creed, the man did some really good job getting in shape for that, and that looked amazing.
yeah.
And
Like
that's something else that doesn't get said enough.
yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm sorry to take the point away from you, but it's like, man, like, dude, do you realize when people have to change their whole bodies for a role, that changes
Yeah,
them too?
yeah,
But
yeah.
then you see it in the role
There it is.
and it makes that payoff. And when people are watching it and you see them being enveloped, like The Soloist with Jamie Foxx was one of the best movies Jamie Foxx has ever made. Because I felt like, and most people felt like that character was him. You could take that Jamie Foxx out of the experience and you get the cello player, and that's what makes a good actor. So when you're only a voice actor and you can't sell it with your whole body, you can't sell it with your facial expressions, you can't sell it with, your exaggeration of movements and stuff. The only thing you have to put towards is your voice. And I don't
There
know
it
about
is.
y'all, but I can't pretend to be happy without actually getting happy. I can't pretend to be angry without actually sounding angry.
Correct.
There's
Okay.
no level of just on and off switch. You got to be in it.
And here's the thing I appreciate the most about that. And here's something I'm gonna bring up, and it's a weird comparison. We were Me and Chris watched Moulin Rouge, and one of the characters in Moulin Rouge is in this like camp. They go to this camp where it's a bunch of neons. And it's a city of neons. Well, Rouge goes to this one neon who's trying to make peace, and we literally hear the voice of this neon. And I didn't say it right away, and I thought about it. Like, I said, Chris, isn't this neon the voice of Rudius from Jobless? And Chris goes, yeah, like it's the exact same voice actor. But it felt like the exact same voice actor, and I didn't end up looking it up, but I would assume because it was in English, so I could kind of tell the voice off the bat. But you could tell same delivery, same way of doing this character for Moulin Rouge, and it worked. But ultimately, the reason why it worked, it had the same stoicness, the same understanding of what this character in Moulin Rouge was about to what the character from Jobless is. Same stoicness, same like well mannered, well talked, felt like a kid. And it's funny, the character was a kid. The character said, "I'm a kid who's been moving around from parents to parents because they want to have a child." like a child themselves, but they can't have children, so it's a neon child. And I like the idea of that because that tells me, oh, you just kind of lend your voice to another character, but it made it sound a little bit different, but it has the same. You have the same inflection, and everything else sounds about the same.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I always kind of, for me, the one thing that gets me kind of choked up or something when I listen to video game dialogue, and usually most video game dialogue isn't great, but some of the best I've heard in a long time is when you have characters like Elizabeth from BioShock. You have characters like Judy in Cyberpunk. Judy in Cyberpunk is one of the most fun to listen characters because she has a different style to everybody else in the game. Her way of talking is so nonchalant. She don't really care, but that's the way you do it. I have to give the man credit. He did a good job, and it's from episode 4 because episode 4 was pretty hype anyway. I'm wondering if this is going to just be a new norm for voice acting in the sense like voice actors are going to put their whole voice into the character as much as they can and pull out a performance with their voice. Because, like you say, Deon, voice acting is about the voice. You can't do the body motions. You can't do the physical things. You have to give your voice to that character.
Yeah. You know what? I think one thing we're leaving out too is this is a first of its kind.
Correct.
Solo level. They gotta go hard for it.
Correct.
You
They
know,
do.
it's like putting a whole genre of anime. Was the Wanga the whole tier of this type of I want to say yeah, I'll just stick with the anime for it. This type of animation from this country on the map of this entirely saturated um platform,
Okay.
being the animations and mangas and all that are already popular, so they gotta come hard. you know so
So you kind of
especially if
think
they
that.
believe in it the way that
So
they do.
you think they have to come out the gate swinging to make it as believable as possible because it's something new on it's the new kid on the block, part of the pun, or somebody
Absolutely.
new in that space. Okay, all right. Chris, do you kind of agree
Absolutely.
with
Or
Dion's saying there?
Yeah, I mean, everything that comes out has had. I put it this way. Brandon, I've told you this before. The things that are coming out as animes now already has a certain fan base, because especially if it's coming from the manga, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the things like in other shows that we've seen that don't come from the manga, they usually have a lot more to prove really quick. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do.
So the proving ground coming out of the mangas that are coming out, I've already passed their proving ground, and now they're coming into a different medium that costs 10 times more. So it's a make it or break it, but at least you coming in with people that's wanting to watch it.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, Dion. What were you gonna say? I do apologize.
oh no, it's fine. I was just gonna say that they gotta go hard, or people are gonna start ignoring their releases
Oh,
There it
okay.
is.
as
Okay.
an anime studio.
At the
Like, oh,
studio.
okay, yeah, that's the guy who did Solo 11. It was all right. It wasn't really worth it. It was,
Fair enough.
voice
Fair
acting
enough.
was kind of weak. like, you know. So even if
Uh,
this doesn't get as popular, it at least get some type of stage to land on.
that's correct. Yeah. I want to ask y'all what do y'all think in the comments because I agree with both these guys, and I give these guys credit. They're both understanding of this anime thing a bit more than I am. I'm not super new, but I'm newer to like the fact that voice acting has kind of gotten to a level it has now, and they brought really good movies. And it's funny, you think about it, yeah, that's kind of a thing now because you want to see them really believe the character they're playing. Voice acting, actual acting, whatever you want to say, it it's hard pressed to do that because a lot of times they tell you they're probably like, don't always do that. Kind of be more change up what you're doing. But people do get out there and actually do very well at it. So it's working. Let it continue. Let's get into this last story. And this last story is going to be kind of different, and its reason is because Solo Studios getting heavy backlash because their opening theme faces heavy backlash by Koreans due to allegations of in-crop anti-men gestures in the middle of its work. Basically, the whole situation for this, and I'm not gonna go through the whole quote because it gets kind of muddy for the most part. Basically, the opening has some gestures that kind of convey that Koreans are pissed about because it shows that the growing area or that part of the body is getting teased a little bit from people there because of having a smaller, yeah. I had to dance around that so much. I danced around it. I did. I had to give myself credit.
That man turned into a ballet dancer.
Yeah. I ultimately think this is kind of funny to me because I don't understand.
Why would you put yourself out there? That's my question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But it's also, so the last part of this little 4-section quote from this Instagram account, which I follow a lot, they do a good job with news stuff. They mention the fact that the studio is involved with a feminist group which is centered on degrading Korean men on okay. All right, let me get to this. Let me just get this out here. I'm gonna ask you both this. Why would this why, one, is this getting backlash, and two, should it really be a thing outside the fact you shouldn't be degrading men? I get all that. I get that. But the rest of it seems kind of stupid. And Chris, I'll start off with you and go. I want to hear this.
Bruh, okay. First off, if you put I mean, there are so many sayings for this. If you hit the toe, the pinky gonna scream. I mean, bruh, like
Yeah.
nobody else that I know of thinks of anime, especially when watching anime, about that. So I've never noticed it. I don't know if anybody else has, but that's the first thing. The second part, if it is actually happening, what the, you know what I'm saying? Like, bruh.
Yep, I know you're there.
Like, honestly, I swear, with the most I hear, and maybe it's just because of the forums or things I read, are like Asian dudes are they like the black men overseas or something? Because they low key be getting it bad, bruh. Like, dang,
I
the
mean, they are
women over there. I mean,
if you're not white, you're black.
so with that being said, yo, if there's any kind of anti men faction out there, go have a baby. That's the equivalent of go save yourselves. For those that for those of them that have mental illnesses like as such as them. So yeah, I said all of that. Quote me on that.
Deon, I'll let you go, then I'll finish this up. And I'm gonna say this right now. I do throw these guys curveballs. This was a curveball that I had to think about. This is a curveball I had to think about doing because it was just when I saw this on this Twitter account, who's a very reliable Instagram account. They do a very good job with their stories. When I saw this story, I was kind of just like, what are we talking about here? Like, this didn't seem, and like, I don't think and I'm gonna get to my thing, but the studio itself shouldn't get backlash for something they made. That's the thing. I'm like, what? But Dion, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start off with saying props, dog. Papuri, I think it was the studio that got it through. Props, because we're on the
Yeah.
fifth episode and they're just now noticing. Bravo. You snuck that in. Very good. I mean, but in all fairness, in reality, I wouldn't want to be talked about either if it was true.
There you
So
go.
it's like, who cares, man? Insecurities and like you're embarrassing yourself, really. Like clearly you didn't notice until till late or on anyway. So whatever, man. I mean, on one hand, I get them like, all right, y'all done, but it's also like, who cares? I get why they're saying you're done because it's like, all right, you called my mama a B word, and now we can't be friends no more. Even though my mama is a B word, so we still can't be friends though because you said it. Like,
Wow.
but oh man, then my mom's not a B word by the way, but I'm just saying that's just an example.
Yeah,
Oh,
I get where you're going with it. I do. It feels like, and I'm gonna say this with all due respect to this show because I think Solo was pretty good. I'm still reading the manga, listening to the manga. By the way, here's the thing: you feel so upset that this show is doing well to the point where you're gonna start saying things that are not great about it. Like, why? What is your purpose? And here's the funny thing: they're talking about the opening of the show, not anything else. The opening theme. And I'm like, the opening theme, the song. I'm thinking, wait a minute. That song is a pretty good song. What the world are we talking about here?
So it's not even the song; it's the
no, it's
animation.
not.
Like,
It's
bro,
the
like,
visuals. It's
Oh,
not
it's the
even the
yeah.
oh,
song.
not even songs, so it's the
Yeah,
visuals. But even then, if you're going that route, the visuals are pretty good and it connects with the show. So I
can I
still
ask you
don't
guys a
care.
question?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you're afraid of what a feminist group will say, why did you get a feminist group to do it in the first place?
Ding, ding, ding.
That's what I was gonna ask, but I didn't. I didn't want to ask that question. I thought the same thing. I'm like, yeah, that's not great. That's not great. That's not great. And here's the thing: to
So
each their own.
can't
To
be
each their
mad at
own.
that.
To each their own.
Yeah.
Because here's the like, yeah, they're getting backlash for the animation. Yes, they're part. They help. They work with a famous group. I could care less, but ultimately, if you're mad about the fact they made the opening, here's the thing: the opening theme, which is the visuals, basically show what the anime is doing. And if anything else, you're not really making anything. You're not really showing the fact that he's like, yes, he gets hurt in a couple of opening theme things. We've seen that. And some of the things we've seen in the theme also mentions like he gets better, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, what are you getting at here? What are we talking about? Like it boggles my mind because I'm like, I don't get the backlash for things anymore. I don't get the internet half the time now. Cause I'm like, people have backlash for things that don't make much sense. And this is one where I'm like, do people care? No. I consume not. But I think what ended up happening, this got out, and then people were like, oh, huh? And didn't know what to think. But if it's doing something in Korea, I get it. I know the Asian culture gets a lot of flack for a lot of things they do for that kind of stuff. So over there, yes, but anywhere else in the world, it's kind of like confusing, confusing. Um,
This has
I
been a
have
trope for years, though. This isn't like they've been saying this since I was born that Asian men were not well.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not something new that they're hearing for the first time. They should be very used to this.
I'm actually both this and I'm gonna start off with Chris for this. What is the American equivalent, Chris? Because if that's the case, there's a couple American equivalents I can think of, but they're not as like terrible in most cases.
I don't understand the question. Can you rephrase it?
So like what is the equivalent of this for the Asian culture that would probably be something in American culture that we would get offended for if somebody else did it?
Yeah. Oh, easy. Because we still get offended, and I slap any who does it. Blackface.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. Yep. You're right. Fair enough.
But is this that serious? I don't think this is as serious as blackface.
No, but no. That's not what the question was. He asked, "What is the American equivalent?" That is the only closest thing that I can think of. You got something better?
I would think maybe something as simple as like the middle finger or something.
That would be the other
Like,
one I could. That could be the other one I could think of. Yeah.
yeah, like I can.
Those two are those two are
whether
the probably
or not
tops.
be angry at
But
it.
I mean, but that's the one thing that's almost universal though. So, and they show it in anime as it is, so it's already there.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, and I just watched this intro video, by the way, and yeah, I don't see anything that would make me feel like
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
it's like
Yep.
one scene when his sister is like arms open, but she's got her arms open pretty wide. So if but yeah, no, the middle finger, because like with someone saying that you're not um, well off, I'm trying to be a dancer like you. But with
Yep.
someone saying that you're not well off, you can either get mad about that and play into insecurities, or you can be like, whatever. So it's like blackface though, you gotta get mad off that for the culture.
But see, that's us as a culture. You see, yes,
Yeah,
as us as a culture getting mad. That is the equivalent.
yeah.
I think that's what the thing that's bogging all three of us is the fact that this just seems kind of odd.
It's
But I
childish. It's
mean,
like calling your
Is it?
mama an African booty scratcher.
Doing things that don't make any sense. It's basically just playing the cooties game. It's doing things that don't
Yeah.
make sense, and it's just like, why did you do that? Like,
I'm
it didn't
sorry.
make any sense for doing it. And I'm gonna put in something when we talk about the episode later this evening for solo leveling that automatically contradicts something quickly. And it'll be it's easy to point out because it does something in these episodes that makes it kind of funny, and also the manga does it, which is also kind of funny. But it was
pause.
interesting. Go ahead.
Pause. Like I don't think y'all really realize how that conversation went for a hot second.
I know how it went.
No. Wait a minute, because both of y'all were talking, and the way it came across in my headphones was this dude said African booty scratching, and you said a form of cooties. I was
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. Did something. Yep. All right. Yep. You're right.
I couldn't stop laughing. I was trying not to laugh in the mic.
That was funny. Yeah. But the reason I brought that up right after you said that is
man.
when little kids play the cooties game, that's the basic equivalent to it.
Yeah.
That's the basic equivalent to what we're seeing in this. Like, that's insane. It's
Yeah.
crazy. That's something you would
They
never
said
see.
that all men got cooties and they got jealous.
Yeah,
They got angry.
Like that doesn't even like compute. Like, why would you do that to your own
listen.
people?
The fact that you spoke out on it, you're low key confirming it. See
Yeah.
that's
Right.
really
Oh my goodness.
Like I tell the
It's,
people when we
it's
just
like
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say something super stupid. No, I want to retract that statement before I say it.
All right, fair enough. like I told people before, we've done this podcast for almost 50 episodes. We're getting close to 50 episodes. Like I say,
Woo-hoo.
I throw these guys curveballs. This was a curveball story because it was just like I don't think anybody's gonna cover this. It's kind of out there, but it's something we
You
need to
definitely
talk
got a
about.
curveball answer.
I did,
I
but
was
it's something.
not expecting that.
It's a thing that is kind of gotten used to the anime community. Me and Chris talk about it a bunch. There are tropes in anime. There have been tropes in anime for the time anime has been around. Some of the tropes are good, some of the tropes are bad, and some of the tropes are just there. Is that gonna ever change? No.
Mhm.
But ultimately, this is this is really small potatoes compared to things. Like I think it's funny because it's like you're giving the studio backlash. And the studio's making the show. So what?
How?
Yeah. It's like someone saying,
Never
I'm
mind.
getting mad at our anime studios for drawing women with only big chest. There's small chested women out there. So why not? It's like, what? Who cares, bro? You're not drawing
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Don't watch it.
Chris, you were about to say something. I'm gonna let finish your statement before we go to the charts.
I can't, bro, because what I might say, I can't take back.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll move on. We're heading over to the anime charts. This anime chart was very interesting, and it was actually something I did not expect. So I'm gonna run these down real quick, and then we'll get to discussion forum. So for week 4, we have Dangers in Our Heart season 2 at 1, Solo Leveling at 2, Fears Beyond at 3, The Apothecary Diaries at 4, went up 1 spot. Classroom Elite went up 1 spot to 5. Magic and Muscles dropped 4 spots to where it is now at 6. The 7-time loop, married his worst enemy, went to 7. Undead Unlucky went to 8, moved up 9 spots. Chain Soldiers at 9, and Rhonda Crispin is at 10. So I'll start off with Dion for this. What is your big takeaway from these charts?
Oh, the biggest takeaway?
Mm-hmm.
Magic and
Or what
Muscles
surprised you? Biggest takeaway or surprised you?
Magic and Muscles dropping so far. I was convinced that people were just so in love with this show that it was going to be after last week's rise to the top. I was in shock. But the thing that didn't surprise me was Solo Leveling going to the number 2 spot.
You called that. You did call it.
You know, Dangerous in my heart. I am going to binge this immediately because it has held the number 1 spot.
Yeah, it's actually it held the number 1 spot for a long time, even though it probably shouldn't have. I don't know why it would hold the number 1 spot that long, but it
I
did.
mean, probably because of all these people that like all the dramas. I'm like, man, I mean, I'm not saying that dramas
I'm
are
black.
bad.
Huh?
We know you black.
Wait, what?
No,
I,
he
I
said
I
he said
broke
he's
up.
back.
What
Yeah, he
happened?
said he's back. He said he's back. I heard that.
No.
Yep, that was right. Wait, so why would you want to binge watch it, Dion? The Dangers in My Heart.
Because if it's that good to hold the number 1 spot for this long, I don't want to have to wait for episodes. I want to be able to just go through it.
Okay.
You see what
All
I'm
right.
saying? Like
Yeah.
something like Freerin Beyond Journey's End. I don't see myself being in love with that show enough to be like, oh, okay, I can't wait for the next episode. I gotta watch it now. But for this Dangers in My Heart, the season 2, I haven't even seen season 1. And season 1 wasn't held down on the charts like this as it is now. So
No, it
I'm
wasn't.
going to need to see every episode of this back to back to understand why it held this spot down for so long against, mind you, I gave Solo Leveling a perfect 10 last week. So for it to still be able to hold that spot, um, I'm baffled, confused, and amazed all in the same breath.
Chris, what was your biggest takeaway from this chart? What was like one of your surprises?
I mean, honestly, I was kind of expecting this because I mean, we for the last two seasons we've seen dramas kind of hold the top spot. Now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure what kind of fan base that is watching those, so I mean, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I'm not the person to judge those. That's the, so my friend Rain, who's watching those, she says, in her opinion, they don't necessarily belong in the top spots, but they do belong in the top 10. Those were her words.
Mm. Can I ask you guys a question?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Cause you just made a point come to my head, and I'm gonna say this at the risk of sounding stupid.
At the risk of, dang,
You might cut
how
out
dare you
again.
leave us in such suspense?
More women usually take part in like pose and stuff like that. And a lot of guys just skip over that type of stuff.
Uh,
True.
yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting because this poll, I voted in this poll a couple times myself, but usually if I'm voting, it's things I like to watch myself. So I'll vote for like Gushing Over Magical Girls, Chain Soldier, Solo Level. I'll even vote for Magical Muscles in most cases. Outside of those, I won't vote for anything else. It's the whole engagement thing, and it's
Well,
talking about engagement, engaging with the community.
but then that also just proves that we're men and we like manly shows.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, Apothecary Diaries is an amazing show.
Yeah.
I really like. I have no problems with Apothecary Diaries being in this top 5. It's an amazing show. I was actually disappointed. I want to say the week before last when it didn't do so well. But and it's not like super action or anything like that. It's a really, really drama based show. But a show like Beyond Journey's End, I do not understand why that is held down top spots for so long. It
Well,
is borderline boring on any level.
well, well, I mean, I've watched the first three episodes of Fear,
Yep.
and to me, it's too slow. The pacing is too slow for
Yes.
me to watch it episode by episode. But I believe it is good if you can binge watch it.
It's a beautiful anime, written beautifully. The animation of it is beautiful, but for it to hold down the top like 5 spot out of all the animes that we have this season,
For two seasons, it's done it for two seasons.
Done
for
for two
two,
seasons. Yep.
like man, that is baffling to me.
You bring up okay, so you bring up the question about the poll stuff, which I thought, yeah, mostly that could be a good sense of like women more voting than men. The other thing about this chart that I think is kind of telling, I'm gonna say is right now. Look at the top. Okay, look at the top 5. Only one is a shonen technically, and that's Soul Leveling.
Mhm.
The other 4 are technically drama and 2 kind of or 3 kind of like storytelling animes through a means of like a land, a school, whatever. And the funny part is the next really actiony anime, I'm putting that in giant quotation marks, is Magic and Muscles.
Giant quotation marks.
After that, your next one really is Undead Unlucky. Undead Unlucky, Chain Soldier, Ronda Crimson, and Gushing Over Magical Girls. So ultimately, I think the thing is, this season of anime for the winter is going to be held down by drama. just because it is something, and it's I said this with Magic and Muscles, and I'm gonna repeat myself one more time. Magic and Muscles is funny if you can turn the brain off.
Yeah.
Drama is interesting if you can. It's a cozy, something simple, something easy to listen to. Drama is something where you can listen to what they're saying and be enthralled by the story. One thing about this list, the one show I like the most on here, Classroom of the Elite. Technically, it can be classified, if you really want to, as a drama.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those.
Why? Because the talking and the storyline they're telling you bounce around 5 different things. And it's funny, if you look at Classroom of the Elite, it's the modern version of it's a version of if you did All My Children or Will and Grace or something of that nature where you're in the same scene, you're in the same you're within a school, within a little town or something. But all that's changing is the scenery and the characters. But the most important thing is the dialogue or what's happening on screen at that given moment.
Mhm.
I bear to say this right now. It's gonna be hard pressed to break the streak of putting Dangers in My Heart out of the top 10 out of the top spot unless you have a legit banger from Magic and Muscles, from Soul Leveling, from Chain Soldier, from something that can legitimately knock it off to the point everybody's gonna watch.
I don't think it'll happen.
I don't think so either.
That last episode from Solo Leveling would have been the one to do it, and it fell short.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
The only other show I could see doing it because it did well and got to the top 10 was Undead Unlucky. If Undead Unlucky has another banger show somewhere by this episode or somewhere down the road, I think it could break in the top 5. I could
It's gotta
maybe
do
see
good for 3 or 4 episodes straight, but yeah, I can see it.
I could outside of that, the only things we have. Look at this. Look at the top 15 before we kind of get into everything else. Gushing Over Magic Girls 11. Honkai Girls Are Super Adorable is 12. Villain Level 99 is 13. Delicious Dungeon is 14. Moon Fantasy is 15. Shangri-La 16. That's a crime. Signs of Affection is 17. The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic is 18. Banished from the Heroes Party is 19. And basically after that, The Witch and the Beast is 22. And I'm going to still champion this show.
Goodness.
Moulin Rouge is 23.
What?
And Instant Death Ability is in 24. I'm going to do something because me and Chris started watching the show and we both thought it's terrible. And I hate to do it. Buchagiri, which me and Chris have been watching, which is not great, is 29.
Mm-hmm.
And Buchagiri doesn't really have a plot. And Chris will tell you it doesn't have a plot because we've watched the first couple episodes. We're both confused.
It is the most right now. It is the most retarded show I've ever seen,
And it's gotten so much hype behind it
because who's making it? Because of Mappa. I'll
like.
put
Is this what happens when your when your top producers leave?
I'll put it like it to. Ooh, ouch. I'll put it to you this way. I think this is gonna be the weirdest chart we're gonna see in a while, because I think what's end up gonna happen. I'm gonna call it right now. I hate to say it. Dangers in My Heart is gonna sweep the top spot for the rest of this chart.
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
I'll say this because I'm noticing something. I just looked at a few other top charts. If a anime, and you can quote me on this, if an anime with a female lead does great, that'll be the one to take it.
That's the other one I can see happening. Because the other one, and it's funny, you say that Danger Tomorrow has a female lead. Fruit to Be on Jailers is from a female lead. Apothecary Diaries is female led.
7-time loop, female led.
I think Chain Soldiers
Metallic
technically
Rouge.
Metallic Rouge is female led.
Ragnar.
Gushing Over Magic Girls is all female led. like it. You're right. It's funny because it shouldn't be that way, but it's gonna end up being that way because that's the thing that is more interesting than having a male lead. And even it's funny thinking of that. Male-led games is even more interesting because male-led games aren't as interesting. Male-led movies are more interesting than female-led movies, and that's a whole other conversation for another day. But that's the
I didn't say that.
but no. That's here's the thing. Here's the thing. That's based on fact. That's based on money, and that's based on corporations thinking that.
And
I
rest in
don't
peace, Barbie.
like that's the and Barbie was like actually a good movie, a really
And
good
then
movie.
Oppenheimer came out, and
Yeah,
they were like,
that's
Barbie, who?
like that's the thing we're getting at. Like that's the thing I'm getting at because it's basically like saying for movie and TV, they assume male-led movies and shows will do better. But if you think about it, something like Barbie, something like um, Wonder Woman, something with a good acting base, will
Bitch,
have
Wonder Woman.
the first movie, not the second. The first, not the second. But here's what I'm getting. The reason I bring that up is because look at the actors in those: Margot Robbie, Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Look at the teams doing those two movies. Really well known teams. It's kind of sad, but I think that's the thing we're getting into. And I think it's not going to change anytime soon. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Anime is the reverse because anime is probably more interesting to see a female lead than a male lead. In most
It's rare.
Yeah.
Unless it's a drama or a romance com or something like that. But
And it's funny, Moulin Rouge is the action, and then everything else is drama, except for Gushing Over Magic Girls. Is an action. Yeah. I want to see the rest of the chart because I think if it ends up where either something with drama stays up top or if something gets up there that's random, I ultimately think the only other show that could probably break this mold, if it's not a drama, is Magic and Muscles. I think Magic and Muscles can break the mold just because Magic and Muscles can probably do a random episode where he just does something so crazy. It's like, okay, everybody needs to see what's going on with this dude. And it works. Speaking of Magic and Muscles, get up episode 17 of Magic and Muscles. We'll get into that to a second. I'm going to finish off with this question, gentlemen, and I just need a quick answer from you. Do you think there should be a better way to do something like this, like a chart? Is there another solution we could do outside of we talked about viewers and even voting? Is there something better we can do to give indication of what's really good? And I'll start off with Deon for that.
I've actually been toying with an idea. I'm not sure how to pull it off. But so, feel free to take it, anybody, as long as I get to see it. A live poll. A website where you can go and see the changings of people's perspective daily. Because like we were saying last time, I may not have watched Magic and Muscles when it was released. I may have ended up waiting a week later to watch it or, catch up on certain animes. And with a live polling, I can still go and take that vote and you will be able to see it in real time versus last week standing and gotta wait until next week standing. I can see up until the next episode is released what people thought about it.
Okay. Chris, what do you think about that? Kind of what would you think might help this? Because I can see that.
Well, I personally would like to see the actual data that Crunchyroll or whatever site they're looking at. I want to see how would the what is the run, because they have the data on how many viewers are watching a certain video at a certain time. I want to see that data, and that data should tell you how popular a show is, especially since those shows come out at different times. Now, if you mix that to what Dion was saying, with the basically becoming statistical data, they have that too. So I want to see that data.
Okay. I it's an interesting thing. I would like a mix of okay. I like both y'all thoughts. I think there's a mix of all three. I think if you give me live data, but also give me you give me live data, so it's a running ticket for about a week or so, maybe a little longer. But then you also give me the statistics of who's watching what and how often. I think that would be good. But also, here's the funny thing I forget about Crunchyroll. You can do on Crunchyroll on the website, particularly. I don't think you can do it on Xbox or anything like that. Even on mobile, you can do it. You can like or dislike an episode, which is odd because it's not really something you would think about doing for a site like that. That's like doing like for a YouTube video. So that also kind of gives you an indication. You can also comment about episodes. So really, if you're both right, because there should be so much data to the point where you can be inundated to know what's good.
Yeah.
And would I want that condensed into like a quick little like table thing or like a top 10 list from Crunchyroll? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Would they ever do it? No.
You know what? It should be like Google reviews. Like where
Ooh.
it's
Okay.
like
Okay.
you have the anime with a 4 point, like the ratings that Crunchyroll gets, right? You get like a 4.8 star, but it's had 80 to 90,000 K people vote, right? And then you get solo leveling. They have 5.0 stars, but they've only had like 40,000 people vote. Like I feel like that would be a good criteria too, because then you can say, yeah, it's got a 5.0, almost like Amazon stuff. Like, yeah, it's got a 5.0, but only 2 people liked it. Of course, it's got a 5.0.
yeah, that's right. So you have more reviews to congregate that score, and that the more reviews
Yeah,
you have, the higher that score can be kind of averaged out. Okay.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It it's an interesting system because I don't know, and it's funny. I looked at the bottom of this because I know they always print it. They always say it too, which I kind of. So on this chart, there was over 8,618 reviews. People voted. So that's still pretty high comparatively. If you want a good sample size, you would need almost 30, 40,000
Million.
people, or even you would almost need the number to almost be in a couple million to make it make sense.
Yeah,
But the thing is, you'll never get that true number because you never would have that many people on a platform,
yeah.
ever. But I think with Crunchyroll has a good idea of like they know the user base, they have everything else. What can you do with it?
I think the
It's
average watchers for platform, I think I remember seeing somewhere, it's like 100 to 150,000 at a time.
but
I
that's
think
even
like
still.
Crunchyroll and Hulu. So even that number is super low for people who watch anime in general,
Mhm.
but it's still higher than like 5 to 10,000 people that vote
The
on the stuff.
yeah. Um, Let me know what y'all think in the comments because we kind of brought up good points there. It's interesting to me because I think what they're going to be looking at that's what games do. Games look at data like how did a game review, how did fans react to it. The review is based off bonuses and things, and that's been a true thing. Like if a game reviews well, they get a bonus for it. If a game doesn't review well, things happen and people end up losing jobs for it. But I think that can go away if you can just kind of give us true data in sense for anime, where it's like who are actually watching these shows, why,
Yeah.
and you have a reason for it. But let's get into Magic and Muscles episode 17. This episode was a doozy, and I'm gonna say this right now, ladies and gentlemen. I usually don't do this for this show because it doesn't really need necessary for it, but I'm gonna say viewer session devised because there's a lot of blood in the back half of this episode. So if you're squeamish, I would say turn away, but there's a point to it all. I will in second say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Finn and the friends.
And here goes the song with 20 million views.
Yep, that's still insane to me. It's
Instead of K-pop, we got K-hip hop.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yep, yep. That's See, I'd be interested if you translate to this to English. Could you still sing it? Because I don't think the way he's doing that, going back and forth like that, that pacing would be different for us.
Just put Eminem on it. He got it.
Like there's a few rappers who could do it. It'd just be you would have to be very good at rapping to do it, so you could make it make
See,
sense.
what I'm learning though, in my Japanese course is that they actually have more words per word than we do.
Correct, they do.
Mhm.
So as fast as we wouldn't have to go as fast to say some of the stuff they're saying.
True,
But
but still,
that
Eminem
brum
can fill
bum
in the
bum brum,
blanks.
that part got to stay the same. I don't care what language you say it in.
Yeah, what language that is.
Okay. Like honestly, doesn't the artist almost sound like Eminem?
He does. He has that qualifying round for this. It is kind of funny. It's a team thing, and you did force them to split up. Why did you do that?
It was unlucky, man.
Ew. I have to give him credit. They actually showed him when he's just already hurting somebody.
I had to give it credit. They actually gave me somebody I can hate.
Yeah, that's also true. You gave somebody who can hate. We can hate. It's not easy to hate something like that. So is that his power, or he can just do? Is that just me? He learned how to do?
Nah, that's just him trying to be still as possible.
Okay. Oh, yep. See, this is where I would start running.
Running, this is when I sp- just spray my AK and then run.
Yeah, yeah. I would just start shooting off magic blast at this point. Do you think he would have, if he would have handed it over right away, he would have been fine?
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, no, he wouldn't have been fine. He would have been just kind of there. Here's the here's the thing I don't really understand. They never said how to break everybody's crystals, so you kind of left it up to them.
Well, all they had to do was break it though.
Yeah, that seems like you left out a rule or two. Then
But
within
now
the
they
rules,
left
you
it in
don't hurt your
private.
fellow student.
Well, we know this ain't that type of school.
True.
It's probably just weird.
Why was he praying? Why was he thinking his parents were random? Okay, never mind. I love how he
Made you look.
he faked him out and then started running. It was like, okay. And the fact Finn's running and then the other guy's just walking.
On some Michael Myers type ish.
Yep.
Ooh.
You really didn't gain much distance. You kind of just got lucky.
He didn't gain any distance. This is the only reason why Finn made it through.
Mm.
This is a last ditch effort. I would have already been like gave you the crystal and ran and left. To be honest, I don't want to be around when this happens. No dirt is going way too far.
Said he's holding Mash's life in his hands.
Oh. Mm. Yep, there you go.
This should not be legal.
No, it shouldn't.
Ooh.
Not for a fight like this. Not for a challenge like this. To become a divine visionary. It wasn't in vain. I'm here now.
I know we've all felt about bashing somebody's head against the wall. We've all had that moment.
You probably have it once or twice, but not like I don't know if you could break the wall doing it like you just
I
did.
like to think I like to think I would if I was mad enough.
With certain people, you
Man,
want to break the wall with their head.
yes. Too bad we have laws.
Yep. That's why I lost in place.
Well, technically, where we live, it's
You
legal
know,
if they consent to it.
The only thing about his power I did not the guy he's fighting's power I didn't get. How can he pick his targets? Does he pick them based on who he's looking at?
he literally goes out after the weakest, but everybody's weakest. So
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't understand how it works because what's the range on it?
They
You
never
know,
said. They
and
never said how
what's the
long.
trigger?
The trigger is when he stabs somebody. I think he's looking at somebody and stabs his own body to stop them.
Oh, so he has to look at them. Okay,
I think look at him or being close in proximity with them, but he can switch the
I
attack when
was
he's.
okay.
well, no, he doesn't necessarily have to be looking at him because he hit the guy in the leg when he was on the other side of the wall.
Oh yeah.
That's a cheat.
That's
I
basically
can't
the,
hit you.
that's basically the
You
healing
hit
factor.
yourself.
Healing factor against deflecting damage. Yeah, it's in a lot of RPGs. You could do that. It just depends.
And it's like
Basically.
whenever Mash hits him, he's getting hit. So Mash is basically fighting himself right now.
Correct. He's punching his own face. Yeah. Yeah, it has to. Like Deon said, it'd be over P if it didn't.
Something's got to be taking that damage.
Yeah, it can't just be endless amount of damage. Like he would be the ruler of the world.
Yep, P unstoppable. Wait, you said what kind of body does this guy have? Have you seen his muscles?
No, he hasn't. He literally hasn't.
Mm-hmm. Then the statue turns into some creepy monster. Oh, oh. This whole section is going to be just chaos, interesting, like fun, funny.
He brought out the wand.
Yep.
And he'd even use it as a wand.
Who called it? Who said that he was gonna be a comedy point?
I did. I said it was going to be a comedy thing later on. This is a
Yep.
comedy thing later on. Oh man. Oh, this is insane.
You right, Brandon. You did call that.
And basically, he's playing tennis with himself.
Literally. But to turn the wand into a tennis racket.
A metal one at that.
Yeah. See, brain off, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Is it practical? No. It's not possible, naturally. Couldn't do it on the fly.
I've only seen one other person shape metal like that.
Which is?
JJK.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I mean, he's playing racquetball.
Yeah, he's just
with
playing wall ball, basically.
a curse, almost. You got me thinking JJK. Now I'm saying curses.
Saying curses?
Ooh. Bro, that hit to the forehead was probably not satisfying enough.
Of course,
You need to hit
that's
him a
what he
few more
uses
times.
his wand for.
Now, see, after getting taken out like that, somebody who was quote unquote invincible, why would you want to fight somebody like that?
You wouldn't.
Pride.
You absolutely wouldn't.
That's like Goku. Goku would want to fight him.
Well, that's
Probably.
Goku. And
Superman would probably want to fight him. But that's
Just to
Superman.
prove
Like,
that he's the best.
No, like.
Go ahead and die peacefully, my guy.
if you got whacked in the head that hard and it was the first time your body ever felt pain, if you didn't die on impact, you died from the shock.
Yeah, he should have gone to like shock, which he's going into technically.
Not them trying to make us have feelings for the man. No,
Well, we do know sometimes they end up becoming his friends, but if
nah,
you
not the
even let
man who.
that dude be your friend, nah. If you even let that dude be your friend,
Mash probably would though.
So
Let's let's
that
let's be real.
yeah. Well,
that was the end of episode 17. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna do this in three parts because these three of these basis was a lot of talking, a lot of things, but the three main things here were the beginning, the middle, and the end, which is the old fight. So we'll start off from the beginning. This starts out where we see them kind of recap the fact, or they don't recap, they kind of talk about what is the Master Cane? What does that mean? You're imbued by the gods with a power basically to the lever that you can master the power yourself. And you are a master of that power. So they kind of recap, they give us that backstory, just kind of context for what's going to happen in this episode. We get the opening intro. Then we kind of just we see Finn. Finn's kind of like, I'm all by myself. This is kind of bad. I don't know what to do. So he tries to sneak around. He kind of talks about the fact that Dot and Mash both lost their crystals, so he has to kind of keep up with everything for a bit. Dot says he needs to try to find Finn and Mash, and then we kind of see some other characters as well along that path. Um, Once Dot he finds his little room, he sees this guy laying down who's wearing the yellow vest, and he sees this dude, and this dude's like stabbing his shoulder and hurting this kid, and he gets the crystal and breaks it. Finn's like, I just need to become a wall, come where he can't see me. He thought it worked, but ultimately the guy sees him. Then they kind of have a little tussle at a little bit. Kind of like she says, "You're weak. You're not that great. I just want your crystal. Give it up to me. If you give it up, I'm not gonna hurt you," kind of thing. But I, give you a last chance. Then he just starts stabbing himself to get at Finn to hurt Finn, and Finn is supposed to be a coward, not really, not kind of a scaredy cat, and he ultimately takes all this damage and just kind of like, I can't get this up. I can't get this up. I have a reason to hold on to it. Guys, like, give it up, give it up, give it up. Finn finally stands and takes this punishment, but when he takes it, he goes, I'm not going to give this up for my friend, the people I care about, the things I do. And he kind of does a fake attack. He's like, says like damage, and he points to the sky. Nothing happens and just runs. And as he's running, he basically tries to get away as far as he can, but he doesn't get that far. Ultimately, it's kind of like Jason chasing the campers or Michael Myers chasing somebody. He's running, but the guy that's chasing him is just doing a slow walk. And this slow walk is tedious. Then the last thing we really see from this beginning part is Finn kind of feels defeated. We finally see Mash start bolting to Finn's location, even though he doesn't know where Finn is. And then we see kind of the next thing we see is one of the yellow team members, who's the music guy, do a little section. That section kind of talks about everybody else. So I'm gonna ask you gentlemen this. I'll start off with Chris. Chris, what do you think about this first little section where we kind of got what Finn's thinking in his head, why he feels like they're defeated, all this kind of stuff.
so I think all this was just kind of like a recap of the last episode, just to kind of get a kind of get us back into it a little bit. And I mean, now the intro on the wands was a little interesting, especially since my whole thing is I don't want to happen what Dion was saying when we first started, or when we first saw that wands. He doesn't want it to be like give all of a sudden give Mash some magical properties, because that takes away from the show.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he comes and the fact that it doesn't go that way is interesting. So
Dion, what do you think about this little first section here up till before we met the musical guy?
Before we met the
Music yeah, the guy with the music notes on his face. So up to before we got to that part.
Man, the beginning, like Chris said, with the wands threw me through a loop. and I'll say it this way because they were speaking particularly about how they give people powers. So like Chris said, I was like, "Oh man, here you go." But I mean, it just goes to what I was saying last time. Like I really didn't feel like Finn needed to be in these trials, but now I see why he is.
And there we go. That's the big. I think the big thing for this. That's why Finn's beginning part of this is kind of setting up the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
So let's get into this next part. This next part's a bunch of like talking and showing other people. So I'm gonna get through this kind of fast in the sense that basically we see the music guy kind of talk. He's kind of walking around, kind of talking about all the other people, talking about um, Lance. He's talking about the Finn. He's talking about everybody else, and he talks about the guy at the end. And he talks about how the guy that's hurting Finn. He talks about the fact like this dude's kind of weird. He's good at what he does, but he's also not great. He's not a great person. But then he does the random thing ever. He goes, he kind of looks up to the sky, light come down, he prays and says he thanks his parents for who he is and bringing this to the world. I'm just like, okay, that's kind of random. Doesn't really make much sense. You doing that right now. Then we kind of get back to the fight. And this kind of the talk continues. He still kind of hurts Finn. Finn finally gets away again, but when he gets away this time, he did the fake trick there again. This is where he does the fake trick, but the first time he got away, he just started running. This is where he does the fake trick. He runs off. As he's running off, he teleports what's his name to another room, back to the room they were in originally, and he hopes he gets away. Ultimately, he doesn't because the guy finds him, stabs himself in the leg, stops Finn in his tracks. Finn's like, I hear footsteps. This is not good. This is not good. And he sees that the guy's behind him. Then they show the crowd. The crowd is like, the girls in the crowd, they show her face and they like, this is not right. This is going too far, isn't it? Like I've said, this is going way too far. Aren't there rules? And everybody's like, he wouldn't actually do this, would he? Yeah. Then we kind of see Finn in peril. He talks about Mash and what Mash has done for him and the fact that Mash considers him as a friend. He's going to fight to the end. Guy just stabs himself in the abdomen, drops Finn again, and basically says, "You're weak. Why do I care? I don't care what you're just going to be a pawn in my situation." And then he does the thing that I thought was even more cringy. He takes the knife, puts it right to his neck, and slowly starts cutting his own neck to get at Finn's neck. And everybody's watching like, he wouldn't actually do that, would he? He wouldn't actually he can't. Somebody stop it. Like people were like hoping somebody stopped this. Nope, nobody's gonna stop it. Fair enough. But then we see a random hand come out of nowhere, and it's just Mash pushing this dude into this wall and crushing into his head. Crushing his head against this wall. This will start where we get to the fight, and we see him do it a couple times and say, "Finn, I'm sorry. Here's everything. I didn't mean. I forgot. I told you I was coming. I do apologize. But thank you for holding out as long as you did." So I'm gonna stop right there because the rest of this part is just a fight. So I'm gonna talk about that all in one. Deon, what do you think about this next season? From the time we see the music guy, him doing his whole little comedy bit, to the time we see Mash enter the picture and take down this dude for a second to help Finn kind of recover.
This is where the Juan intro makes sense as to why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why, because we thought, me particularly, I thought it was going to be aimed towards Mash or something. But no, it's showing us what Mash is about to go up against and what Finn is desperately trying to survive right now. Other than that, I mean, this guy's a sicko.
Yeah, he's pretty much he's a very much a sicko. You kind of learn that pretty quickly. Chris, what do you think about this little section here from the time we meet the music guy to when we see Mash for the first time again?
Okay, so the music guy is weird. I mean, you're literally thanking your parents for allowing you to have this golden opportunity where you're supposedly in an arena fighting other gladiators. And all of a sudden you want to give thanks to your mom and papa. Okay. Moving on. So and then just like we're moving on and yo man, Finn is low key. I mean, dude gave it his all. I ain't gonna lie, dude tried. Dude tried hiding. He tried staying at one place. I mean, he tried. And then when he got confronted, brother did. And I mean, the dude when dude tried to the first time he tried to get away, dude got him in the leg. I mean, or he got him in the torso and the body, and it was like, okay. Then and then he was like, screw this. Made you look, and I'ma run. Oh, and as soon as you get close, presto changeo. Switch you back so I can try to get some more distance. Dude tried. I'll hand it to him. Dude tried. But then we get to this one part, yeah, bruh. Like just like Deon was saying, we learned about that one, and that's when we think like, bruh, honestly, I thought he was gonna die. Honestly, man, because
He should have. Sorry. It is garbage, bro.
I don't think they were gonna do it because the episode's called Finn and Friends. And here's the funny part: if they would have done it, it would have been like, I get it, gives Mash a reason to continue on, but also it's one of Mash's good friends, and that's where that kind of plays into a little bit.
They don't kill people in this anime.
Well, you say that now.
Like,
look at the end of this.
Goodness, they should.
But look at the end of this. We're about to get to that. Yeah. So here's the thing. The end of this is basically just one giant fight. And ultimately, this fight was amazing. I'm gonna give you the little. I'm not gonna go through it play by play because basically this is just a back and forth a little bit. Basically, Mash starts off and goes, "I'm just gonna try to punch you as hard as I can. I'm gonna punch you so hard, I'm gonna make sure you're gonna bleed." Wait, nope, I can't do that because every time I punch you, you're just deflecting my punches. When Finn mentions that, and the guy mentions, "Oh, you do damage to me, I can deflect it right back." But I'm gonna damage you along the way too. So he just starts stabbing himself in places to damage Mash. Mash takes it like a champ. To the point where Mash is like, you know what? Let me switch my tact. I'm gonna start punching you consistently and see what that does. And when he switches to that tact, you kind of see the guy go like, "Well, my healing factor can't go work as fast, but I'm still healing, so I'm fine." Oh, contraire, no! Look at the statue behind him. The statue cracks, and he's like, "Wait, the statue's cracking? There's a limit? That's impossible." And like Deon said, if he was able just to keep healing, that would be too OP. So they did a thing where he can't take too many hits back to back to back. So basically, Mash figures out I can keep hitting him, try to break the statue. Then Mash ultimately the statue turned into this like evil monster. The monster starts throwing these syringes down to try to hit Mash, as the guy still tried to stab himself to hurt Mash, which Mash takes all of that. Mash opens up his jacket, pulls out this thing. You're like, "What's he pulling out?" Everybody's like in the crowd, like, "What did he point out?" Oh, he's pulling out the wand from episode 2 of the series of the season, and he takes it and molds it into a tennis racket and makes a tennis ball. Why? Here's why. Oh, you know what? We're gonna play some wall tennis, and to the point where he literally just keeps hitting the ball into the statue and slowly breaks the statue more, to the point where the statue just cracks, and the guy's like, "No, don't break! He's breaking it! Oh no!" And he's trying to stop Mash. He can't stop Mash. He tries to the statue tries to throw more syringes. He tries to stab more. Mash is taking all this damage and running away at the same time by playing wall tennis. It's kind of insane. Mash finally breaks the statue. And what does Mash do? He breaks the statue. He's holding the racket above his head. And what does he do with the racket? Cracks the dude right in the middle of the head. Makes him bleed. He falls. Laying there in a pool of his own blood. Ultimately, he loses. And Mash goes, "You know what? Here's the thing. You say you say you're strong. I get all that, but here's the thing: I'm strong. I'm strong myself, but I'm strong. I get why Finn can be weak. Finn was scared and fearful, but what did Finn do? Finn didn't run away. Finn stood up and actually took on the fight, even in the face of an opponent that's stronger than he was. But yet he did it for a friend. And I would be around friends who would go into battle alongside me. So no matter what you do, I'm gonna stand by my friends. Matt says this. The guy goes, you know what? I never felt a pain like this in my life. This pain is hurting and bad, and I've never heard my heart racing this much. Like Chris said, this dude should be in shock or dead. Basically, he's going in shock the first time feeling pain in his life. Then Mash picks up Finn and says, hey, we got each other. We're going to do this. Don't worry about a thing. And they walk off. And then the guy says, I've been outmatched. And that's where the episode ends. Chris, what do you think about where the fight starts with Mash and the guy to the end? What do you think about this whole section?
Yeah, I like this fight. This fight was dope. Like, and like, this is one of those times where you see Mash break the laws of physics twice. Like, the first time, just like you said, as he's punching the statue, yo, the laws of physics dictate that something, even if you're channeling that power, something's going to break. And Mash, he's simply like, well, nothing can hit harder than me, and if I can hit and nothing is, I'm not gonna hurt myself if I hit myself. So as long as I don't puncture, well, I can just literally just beat this guy all I want to. And then we get into this fight. So that's the first time he breaks the laws of physics by break. So the transfer of power. The second time is when he molds his metal wand into a tennis racket. Like, bruh, you realize the type of heat and friction and all this type of strength that you would have to, like, bruh, no. That's the second time he broke the laws of physics. But all in all, it was a very entertaining fight. I liked it. And low key, even though Mash, we know how strong Mash is, I don't think he hit that dude hard enough.
Deon, what do you think about this? What do you think about this episode? Yeah, that bracket was pretty heavy. He's gonna lift out of the ground. What do you think about this back half of this episode?
Oh, I'm gonna say I think I'm alive. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Good.
Yep.
Right.
We said that, and it's like,
It's a
dang.
delay.
Oh, okay. I will give you this. I think this back half shows that Mask can be super serious, but also know what he's dealing with. He thought about everything in that fight.
Yeah.
And ultimately played off it so well to the point where it didn't feel like he was outmatched. He didn't feel like he was out of his depth. He knew what to do and he knew how to handle it. And that's one of the crazy things about this fight, where most times Mash gets overwhelmed by too much instruction or just kind of breaks his own thought. In this case, he didn't break his own thought. His whole goal was to beat this dude for hurting his friend. And that was the point. And I agree with Chris. You probably could have hit him a lot harder and it wouldn't have mattered. Because Mash could have broke some stuff. But Dean, I will let you go. I do apologize for kind of taking that over.
No, it's good. I was having some technical difficulties. I think it's fixed now. I don't know. But all I gotta say is I'll teach you what pain is. What?
That's basically what he told him outright. Like,
what? For the man who has never felt pain from anything or anyone, that like breaks down this entire battle. He has never felt pain, does whatever he wants to, puts the knife up to his own throat to hurt other people. For Mash to walk up to him and say, I will teach you what pain is, and drop his Looney Tune made tennis racket on top of his head. That is definitely Coyote and Roadrunner. That
Yes,
was
it
a
is.
Wiley moment if I ever seen one. But what I did not like, that
Okay.
was kind of cool, is the fact that they tried to make us have feelings for Carpaccio because he's never felt pain and now he's on the ground actually feeling pain, and it's like, this is what he had to go through. No, you didn't know. No, putting a knife up to somebody's throat is just okay in society. Like, you don't have to feel pain to understand that that's not good. You're not making that. Nah, nope.
Yeah.
Like you said, Chris, he should have hit him harder.
Before I
Like,
ask
bro,
it,
I wanted to see a Mortal Kombat style fatality
they were gonna,
when
they were gonna, they were gonna do
yeah,
that, but I would have been okay with it if they did it. Like, okay, I would have been okay. I'm
Nah,
like, cool.
it would have been
I,
funny if he would have just dropped it on him, with it being so heavy nobody else could have picked it up. Like,
yeah,
that would have been a comical moment. He just dropped it on him and he couldn't move and he's sitting there struggling, head
yep.
just cracked, bleeding, this laying on his forehead, like, moving out, Joker.
Um, before I ask the guys for the rating for this episode, Get Up Solo Level episode 5. I'm gonna start off with Deon. Deon, what would you rate Magic and Muscles episode 17?
Brain off a 7. Maybe
7.
an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, the fight scene was cool, but nothing else made sense to me.
Fair. Fair.
I mean, the fight scene was definitely cool, but I mean, I can only turn my brain off so much, you know. So everything that happened in between it before the fight, I'm like, okay, how did he stab him? If he, like, what is the trigger to that effect? Like, how does he have the ability to just stab anybody he wants to? And the guy who's laying on the ground, what was like, he just was that weak. I know Finn is weak, and he still was able to like make a run for it.
Yeah, I mean, if Finn's making a run for it, the guy in yellow doesn't have a
And
reason.
I'm a
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's kind of funny. Like that whole section is kind of weird. Um, but Chris, what do you think about what would you rate Magic and Muscles episode 17?
see, man, this was a good entertaining episode. It had some good funny moments, and I like how they brought the comedy into the action part. But this is where I kind of have to side with Dion because it made more sense in the first season. It was that okay, so we know Mash is a quote unquote muscle head, but to some degree, it makes more action comedy sense if you make the scene make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I will see the only thing that really makes me give it a negative mark on this is the fact that I understand that you took the wand and you made a tennis racket, but where on earth did you get the metal ball from?
exactly.
Yeah,
Not like even Bugs
He
Bunny will say
ripped the
what the world. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
see, so I will give this episode a 7.8.
Okay, okay. I am pretty much around both of you guys. I'm gonna give this like a 6.8. There's two reasons. One, I agree with you, Chris. The metal ball. Where did he get that? Where did he make it? If you're gonna say he made it from, um, if he made it from the rest of the iron,
There's not
eh,
enough metal. Nope.
there's not enough
There's
metal
not
for
enough
that.
metal. Nope.
I could see it, but it's kind of weird.
I can
The other
only
thing,
turn my brain off so much. I'm sorry.
there you go.
Right.
The only other thing I could see, the only thing I didn't really like about this episode is when the music guy and that whole section started. It didn't make sense to the rest of the show. It's it's comedy, but the comedy is breaking up a serious moment. Why are you breaking up a serious moment? What's the purpose of that?
And then yeah, that guy at the end does not deserve redemption at all.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve redemption. He doesn't deserve any of that. But ultimately, giving it a 7, like a 6.8, I'm still giving it pretty high marks. I think it's kind of, there's two little plot holes there. And not bad plot holes, but there's plot holes.
Yeah.
But let's get into Soul Leveling episode 5. Both of these guys have watched this episode. This is the first time for me watching this episode. So I get the fresh perspective. I'm usually not the one that has a fresh perspective in this at all. So this will be interesting. I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, you ready?
Ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. A pretty good deal. Yeah, this is going to get kind of interesting.
This part is hilarious.
Feminism, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Yep, no.
I'm done.
I'm that's KO. Like he's like for what?
Do I need to say anything else?
Nope.
Let's pay real close attention to this intro. This is the only part I was thinking about with the girl.
I mean, I don't see anything yet. Ask y'all though.
Like I said, there's only one part that's not Jin Woo, and it's Jin Hee doing like, I don't know,
Magic
she's
healing.
standing there with her hand open and
Yep.
one hand closed. Like, is that the gesture?
I don't even know. I don't. Yeah.
See what Google says.
Because I'm curious, because I have one idea, but that would say more about a group of men, not just a culture.
Oh, this is the S rank hunter. We see another S rank hunter early in this episode, early in the season.
It's the guy we seen in the very
First
first
eps?
part of the first episode.
Yeah, that's him. Okay. So he's
Yeah,
level 18,
nothing.
strength 48. He has points to assign eventually. Okay. Vitality is 27, intelligence 27, agility is 27. Okay.
Perception is 27 too.
Yeah.
That strength.
He's been putting points in strength a bunch. Oh, these dudes. $2 million. That's a lot of money.
Just for participating.
Yes, just for participating. Fool. By the way, where do you get the clothes?
He's been at home.
But no, where do you get the new clothes?
He's been at home.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just in his
I mean,
closet somewhere.
he isn't wearing any armor or anything. He's just wearing clothes.
What?
He's upgraded from the hoodie though, at least.
That's what I mean. That's
His outfit's gonna get better and better as he gets stronger.
that armor is way too shiny. By the way,
Typical fanfare, fancy stuff.
I can't believe you made a man carry the bags. That's an E rank hunter, and you don't. You're like he's an E rank hunter, and the guy's like, I don't think he don't look like an E rank hunter. He's not gonna say it, but I'm like,
Hmm.
the guy with the armor seems like he's super new.
He
He
is.
is.
Okay, that's what I assumed.
I think it's his first dungeon. He said.
Which is
Yep.
kind of bad. Think back from the first episode, it's like, oh, be afraid, be very afraid what you're about to get into.
Yeah, but if he whatever glowstoned into level C rank, he should be decently strong enough to handle himself.
Yeah.
Monocrystal.
Yep.
Hmm. So cool, calm, and collected now.
Mm-hmm. Instinct. Yeah, I think you can't tell him the actual truth. Yep, he has a little bit of doubt. Whoa. What were you doing with that? He's skeptical. Yep, boss chamber. Acid stones. But it can't. Can it? Yeah, I can actually. They can find it first. And this is a trap. That's Spider.
Creepy spider.
Very creepy. All right. So that was the end of Solo Leveling episode 5.
I think Deon's still trying to finish it real quick.
No worries. Um, huh. That was interesting. The story was interesting. I don't know. I know where they're. I kind of know where they're headed, but it's kind of weird.
They've introduced you to in the past episodes. They introduced you to Jin Woo. Well, let me pronounce it right. It's Jin Woo,
Mhm.
and now we're kind of seeing the world that he lives in. Like this
Correct.
is the people.
Correct. So you're kind of seeing why he lives in this world, what this world's all about.
Exactly.
It's, I like it. I like it so far. I just need to see where it's going to be ending up. I do think it's interesting that we kind of get more of this now than earlier, but I think that's not a bad thing ultimately. Um, but I think also it's just kind of going to have to take time to get to that point as well, which is not a bad thing either.
Like we, this is only going for what, 12 episodes, right?
I think so.
At this point, I'm already suspecting the season 2
Yeah. Oh yeah.
because the
Season 2 should be
pacing
coming. Should be coming.
is slow, but they have enough action to keep pulling us in.
Oh yeah, very much so. Very much so. That's the point. I think they're not trying to do anything crazy. They're not trying to rent the veil, but they're also keeping you engaged. So
Right.
that's the point. I, I'm trying to think how I want to break this down because most of this was talking outside of the back half. Um, This.
So you want me to do the breakdown for a change?
Go ahead. Actually.
All right. So check me out. So from the beginning, Janu, he's fresh out the hospital. All the nurses and everybody just kind of staring him up and down, noticing how his physique and everything. And then
Ew.
finally when he gets to his checkout, yes, we can hear you, bro. And
Okay.
finally when he gets to his checkout, you know, the last nurse is so staring at him so much, like man, she's in awe to finally ask for his number, and I'll stop it there.
I I think that's interesting because I think that kind of contradicts something about the whole thing we talked about from the beginning of the episode today, beginning of the show today. It's funny because you're like, you do that whole section, it's like, why? But it proves a point where he's like, one girl even says at one point, she's like, he has a good looking body, but his face is average. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's a little much,
I
but
mean,
that's kind of harsh.
honestly, that's how I feel like girls talk when they around themselves. So I'm not surprised by that at all.
No, I'm not. Um, Dion, what do you think about that first part that Chris kind of mentioned about? We see the nurses, we kind of see what Jinwoo's getting stronger and everything. What do you think about that?
I feel like it shows the growth in his character. He's like got that routine down. He's doing his workouts crisp and clean. So it's like showing that what was it we were saying before? He gets better looking as he gets stronger.
Uh-huh.
So now you get a little taste of that. So we know he's strong now.
And before Chris continues kind of mentioning down this plot line, I will say this. It is funny because I looked at Anime Corner News and somebody actually pulled up the fact that he's doing 100 push ups, 100 sit ups, 100 squats, 10-kilometer run. Technically, and actually kind of said this is true, you could do that workout and it would actually make you better, technically,
Yeah.
physically, and kind of get you stronger and stuff. It actually
Yeah,
is
of
a,
course, it turned you into One Punch Man.
yeah, it's a legit thing. So I was like, okay, so this is actually based in some real world acumen for the most part. I don't know if people actually do that whole regiment. That regiment looks kind of insane, but
They used to back in prison folk days.
yeah, and like you have CrossFit now, which is probably equivalent to it, but
Yeah.
it it's kind of like, okay, all right. So he's actually doing something. It's actually helping himself overall, not just with the power system. In that sense. But I'm gonna let Chris continue. We can get through the next beats of this.
So the next piece, so when Jinnu gets home, he's kind of getting back into the routine. He's seeing his sister off to another day of school. He even remembers the umbrella because we know how the weather gets in Japan. It gets rainy. But nevertheless, he gets a call from his realtor. Oh, yeah, I've been in the hospital. I know rent's due, but I'm on it. I'm finna get it. We all do this. That's how he's like. And then as we move, and then he immediately after he gets a call for a job. And the job is as he gets ready for the job, he's already done his everything. He completes his job when he gets to the job site of his 10K, checks it off his list, and then he meets these fellow adventurers to get ready to go into a new dungeon. Now he's kind of explaining the contract, what they're going to do and everything, and trying to and just kind of meeting the introductions. Stop there.
Before I answer this, Dion, before I answer Dion, what do you think about this little next section? Because I'm actually gonna use the Monwell a little bit for this because the Monwell kind of does some things interesting. So, what do you think about this next section?
I mean, it was typical to the solo level episodes we've been seeing with him kind of building into a plot point, I guess, like with the app that they use to go on raids and stuff like that, like kind of pointing out little things, little details that's not super big yet. So I do like that because I know I had a problem with that in the past of them not explaining certain things, but I'm glad to see that they're doing more of that with this.
Yeah, I will mention this at this part. So I'm at this point in the manhwa, and this part in the manhwa is actually kind of interesting because that conversation with his landlord is actually kind of interesting. He does mention he was in the hospital, all this kind of stuff. Then they kind of mention the fact that rent for him would be about 500,000 won. So he doesn't really have 500,000 won because he hasn't really done enough raids to get the money for it and all that kind of stuff. But on top of that, when he gets the job call about the job, he gets the call about the job. He goes, he asked him, "Do you really need an E rank hunter because for C rank dungeon?" And he said, "Yeah, it's cool. We can use you. Don't worry about it." And then the contract thing kind of happens where they talk about the contract, and in the phone call they talk about the contract. You don't hear them talk about it. You do hear them here. They do it in the phone call, and they kind of talk about it in the next part Chris is going to talk about. But it's all in the next part basically. The contract is really certified in the module. The contract is certified on the phone, and Jin was kind of thinking in his head, do I really need to do this? All this kind of stuff. And he kind of finally does it. That's where we get I like the fact they do the run. He finishes the run, and he's at the job site. I really appreciate that. So there are little small contact things I like. I do think it's funny. The sister kind of looks at him like, you're up before me, and you've already been on exercising, and why do you look different? Without even saying a word, she just kind of can tell. She tells the audience something's up, something's different. Why? I love that.
It's those minute details that are just like are gonna be groundbreaking for this anime. You got to pay attention to them.
Yeah. I'm gonna let
Those are the
Chris.
details.
I'll let Chris finish off this next little section. We're getting close to the end, but what does this next section entail, Chris?
So I'm just gonna finish the dungeon story because this is pretty much the end.
Correct.
So as they enter the dungeon, they're walking in. You know, the other team's leading the way. They do make a note that most of the engine is empty, but they get into the chasm, and everybody's getting ready for battle because they hear things. Jinu hears insects, and he lets everybody know. A little bit later, he says, "Hey, they're coming up above us," and then down comes these ant creatures, these ant insects, and they're fighting. And Jinu makes a note of how well they fight together, how strategized they are, but he's still kind of off because they're doing good, but it's still off that they don't have a healer. But even as an ant comes towards Jinu, he just like flicks it and it kid dies. Like, oh, okay. But but as they get further into the dungeon, they're exploring it. He makes another note. Hey, man, this cave is pretty empty. Now the other adventurer that's with Janu is a new guy who got this fancy armor. He does make a note that his parents bought him that armor, and it's his first time. And he's asking Janu all these questions the whole time while he's getting information about dungeons, because obviously Janu is a senior when it comes to exploring dungeons. But they get all the way into the boss fight, and they notice all the crystals. Now we remember from the other stuff that the crystals are worth a lot of value to the companies that want them. So they know they can make a lot of money off of it. Furthermore, as they get in there, they notice that they're in the boss dungeon. And then all of a sudden, these dudes are like, "Hey, you finna go take a break. Y'all stay here." Now, pretty much since this is the end, I'm gonna make my comment, bro. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Y'all, yo, we in a dungeon, and I done told y'all that I'm an E rank, and y'all gonna leave me in the C dungeon to make some, bruh. Ain't no way. Whoo, Lord have mercy on what I want to do. Go ahead, y'all.
I'll start this off, Deon. It's interesting. So this part is actually really interesting. They do the contract. He reads it, all that kind of stuff. We meet the kid. By the way, the kid is new, and also they mentioned the fact the kid is 21 years old, like young kid that's with them with the armor. And then they go in this boss dungeon, and the funny thing about the boss dungeon, they mention the fact that he uses instincts. He says instincts to that dude, but we know that's his perception stat. Because that's his perception is high.
Mhm.
Remember when he went to do the other thing in the street? He looked and
Yeah.
he felt where the boss was.
With
That's his
blue
perception. That so
eyes.
he correct. So now
Wow.
he kind of
See, now that's the devil in the detail right there.
Mm-hmm.
so we don't get he doesn't want to tell them that's his perception of that because he can't. Why would he tell them that? That'd be kind of hard to explain. Also, at this point, they also mention because they mention the anime very little, but they do say there's about a bunch of crystals for billions of won. Basically, in the manhwa, they mention the fact that if they sold all those crystals, an average crystal could go for about, if it's good, about 50 to 60,000 won. But if you sell a bunch, he was getting 2 million won from the contract. If he's the crystals on top of that would be billions in won. And that's the kind of scary part because you kind of look, oh, they make some high end money, but something feels off. I also love the fact too, you had Song kind of tell him, hey, hold on a second. These if you go over these these dungeons, they're not great. There's no security cameras. There's nothing to prove that you were hurt. So be careful. So even Song knows something's wrong with these kind of groups that work together. And then the cherry on top of it all, I'm like, Chris, oh, we forgot some equipment. We need to go grab it. You ain't leaving me here. I'm walking out. They're like, I would forgo 2 million won in a heartbeat just because you're
For
going
my
to kill
life.
me. Yeah, like that's obvious. That's obvious. But I love the fact that the anime kind of stayed true to the manhwa. Outside of a few things, they stayed really true to the manhwa in the sense that they kept everything the same. They talk about everything. The only added things they add, the two A rank we see. The A Ray fight we see, the A Ray training thing where the guy punched through the rock, and the beginning thing we see the S rank hunter in the interview. That's the only two things they've added. We don't see that in the manhwa. That's added content for people just to kind of understand where this power level system is. But you have to give them that because you don't really understand that yet.
Yeah. Here too.
Correct. Deon, what do you think about this last little section Chris mentioned? Because I thought this section was kind of fun, ultimately, but I think it builds up to something later.
Yeah, so now we're getting into a spoonful of yummy goodness from solo leveling with this part of the second back half of it. I love how and this did get mentioned, but Jinwoo's little kick, he does the little back kick to the ant, just nonchalantly splitting one of the ant monsters in two. Like,
Boss
you
move.
went from thinking, oh, should I even be in a C rank dungeon to like, oh, this.
Kicking it in half like Jackie Chan. Like, what are we talking
Yeah,
about here? Like, it's not even possible. Like, what you're doing is not even possible.
man. So his perception level is off the charts, and we know that that's not even his strongest stat. I
No,
love how
it's not.
they keep showing his stats. So his perception is amazing. His intellect is decent, but his strength is twice that. So if his perception is that good, we can only imagine what his strength is like in reality because we haven't seen it yet. We've seen the stats, but we haven't really seen him use anything. But they hint to it with the carrying the bags, like, oh, it's nothing, whatever. The only other thing is it truly the game perception, or is that also tied into his own perception too? Like when he's looking at these guys and he's like, oh yeah, they must fight together a lot, and like this him figuring out this whole setup thing, is that coming from the game's perception, or is that coming from his own knowledge?
I think it's a mix of both because when they do it in
Okay.
the anime, you can see the glowing lights around them and like their levels. So you can see their
Yeah.
levels, a C rank, a couple D ranks. But I also think for himself, he has also perceived something's up with this group.
Right.
So he already
Well,
kind of knows something's wrong.
But it's
So
more than that too, because it's the mixing of skills too. Because if you mix the intellect and perception, you're gonna feel like something's off, and then you start putting two and two together because you know
yeah,
something's off. You know.
I just felt like Jin Woo himself already had a trace of that from the first episode. Remember, I'm telling you guys, I feel like he's stronger than he actually is. He's just poor. I feel like he has a lot of that intellect already because he was already calling out shots and calling out. I mean, he solved the dead statue puzzle by himself, you
Yeah, he
know.
did.
So I would be interested in seeing how that plays more into him as a character because he's already intelligent to me. But
Mhm.
they are sorry, I almost said a bad word. Like, bro,
Yeah, they're on
to
fire.
put
They're
you
on
in your
fire. Yeah, they're on fire.
this is
I,
man, two in a row,
um.
two in a row.
So I'm before I yeah. So I'm gonna ask Chris for his rating first. Before I do that though, I will say this: it is kind of interesting because the part that also kind of got to me a little bit is when he put his stat. Would you see when he put his stats into his stuff after his sister left the house? That whole section when he does that, he's thinking about what he should be doing. We just see the aftermath of that. So basically, I think in the manhwa, basically he puts his stats. He tries to make all his stats strength is his first priority, and every other one he wants to divisible by 5. So then he does, I think, perception,
Agility.
agility, and I think he doesn't do intelligence. All intelligence is the last thing he does, but the other three get pretty equal. And it's funny to me because
So
that
wait a minute. He had 12 stat points to put in everything. He went up to 50 strength. He didn't touch intellect and something else, but he upped perception and agility.
he didn't touch
Vitality.
intellect and stamina. That's the two he didn't touch. And
Okay.
that whole little bit is like a long little conversation because he's thinking about it over and over again. But he finally does it. It's like, oh, okay, that's why he did it. And it's interesting that whole section takes like it's like a good 30. Remember, like 30 minutes when you listen to it. But it's funny here they make it quick, so we don't ever see him think about it. We see him think about it for a second. Doesn't really matter. But it's kind of funny just listening and seeing that part. I'm like, oh, they made this shorter, so we don't see the whole thinking. We see just the aftermath. Um, Chris, what would you give Soul Leveling episode 5?
So this episode, again, like I mentioned before, like the pacing of the anime is somewhat slow, but there's enough action and things going on to kind of keep me entertained. And I like the kind of things that they pointed out in this anime and that we pointed out that we like and dislike, such as they pointed out on how they are paying attention to all the minute details. So I am happy to give this episode a 9.7.
Oh, okay, okay. Dion,
Ah,
what would you give this episode of Soul Leveling episode 5?
mm. See, I'm a little on the fence
Okay,
because I gave the last episode such a high rating. I feel like this episode isn't as good as the last episode, but it's consistent with the last episode. It's still up there
okay,
to where you gave me enough to be like, this is all right. I see this as a solo leveling episode. This is a good episode. I'm gonna give it a 8.5. Um,
okay,
and it's only that low because in the first half of the anime it is slow and we do see a lot of reiteration on things that I feel could have been done a little bit better. Like you're saying in the manhwa, he does take more time to think about where his stats goes. Here we don't see that. We just see bam, there it is. Um and you do have to pay a little bit closer to details like the fact that his rent is up So he jumped at the chance to make 2 million. We don't understand why, you know, until you see that at the end with the contract. So up until that point, it was a little dragged on, but still a very high rated episode to me. 8.59, something like that.
Okay. And even going into this blind, the one thing that I had to back myself on was the manga. I have to give it credit. It stayed true to the manga. Even down to the point, the beginning half, where you see all the nurses try to get his number and things and talking about him, that's bang on from the manga. And I like the fact we get the conversation about the uh, about the rent. They do explain he needs the money stuff, which I kind of wish we got about the 500 million won, 500,000 won, explaining why he needs that money, why he doesn't have that money. But then the job as well, the contract, all that kind of stuff. I think those little details are kind of missed, but you kind of just have to kind of take within the details of what we saw. So they do the contract later when you got the job site, that kind of stuff. I have to ultimately give this, just on the anime alone, I have to give this a 10.
Oh,
Ooh.
I think it does well enough to give you everything you need. Even without the context of the manga like I have, I think it still says, okay, here's the basic things you need to understand what's going on in this little section here, and we'll give you the premise. You can kind of put 2 and 2 together. Why is he taking the job? He needs the money. From what? Oh, he talked to his landlord just a second ago. Why is he just getting 2 million won just to be there? Because the guy's like, we've seen the body. Fine. That can make sense. Why would you take the money? The 2 million won just to be on a team. I'll take it. I could pay my rent 4 times over. Like it basically doesn't insult your intelligence, but at the same time, I love the small details, like the sister, kind of like, wait, you're already up. How? But you're usually not up before me. And wait, why do you look different? And she doesn't even
body and everything.
and like, and then she's like, oh, he's like, you need an umbrella, you might need this, and then she leaves. It's like, okay, you kind of gave me a reason to care. And I think that's the thing with the show. I agree with Chris. It is slow, but it's a slow buildup that I think is okay for the show, because you're still giving us action, and the action you gave in this is really intense and really interesting. Plus, the guys he's with are kind of just not great people. I cannot wait for next episode, because I've read ahead in the manga. I've read past this point in the manga because I've read the next part of this. And it's actually going to be interesting how they're going to do the next part of this, because the next part of this is going to be intense.
Can I say this? I'm sorry. Go ahead, because what I have to say will change the subject. So you go ahead, finish your thought.
Like, the next part of this will basically be a big fight for the most part. And that's going to be the interesting part, how they're going to do this fight. And then on top of it all,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. On top of it all, I think the last thing I would say is that I don't think you need to read the manhwa, but I think the manhwa will give you more context.
It definitely gives more detail.
It gives you more context of what's really going on, but you don't need to read it. I think a lot of people will read it after I think this is one of the few episodes where people will go back and read it or listen to it because it's there.
Even the webtoon and the light novel, they give more detail. Because I've only ever seen the webtoon. I didn't read the manhwa, and I just start looking into possibly getting that recently because I started seeing the anime. So I do feel like that. Like,
well, I do want to go back and see the webtoon once the anime is finished.
Yeah. The webtoon would be the interesting one to go back into. But that was episode 42 of the Anime Dojo. I do thank y'all for watching. These 2 episodes were very different from each other. MASH, a lot of action with a little bit of comedy. Soul Level, building up Jin and his stuff, and now he's with a team and he doesn't trust this team. Where does that end up? I'm looking forward to both episodes next week. I'm going to see where they go. But I do thank you for listening. Hope y'all did enjoy. We'll be back next week for episode 43 of the Anime Dojo. I do thank Chris and Deon for me. for joining me. We'll have this back. We'll put this on Spotify. It'll go up after this processes, and then I'll put it up on YouTube on Thursday. Like I said, I do thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy, and hope you're here for next time. See ya.
Peace.
Deuces.